before we begin, what makes you happy?
Food.
Yeah. What makes you happy?
Helping other people.
Helping other people.
Nice.
Family.
Family. What else?
Connections.
Connection. Anything else that makes you happy? That you do in everyday life? Maybe?
Just spending time with people.
Spending time with people. We have a lot of connections, like people connection, relationship, family, helping other people. Anything else?
My dog.
Your dog. My cat, right? So, okay. So our happy topic today is really talk about happiness and well-being. What do you know about happiness?
It's very important for you, and even to be healthy.
Yeah, it is. It is. There was a research done a long time ago, and because you talk about health, and what they study is they look at the diaries, and they examine the words, positive words versus negative feelings words in the diaries. And what they found was that the nuns who wrote more about positive emotions in their diary actually lived longer. So the conclusion for that study was feeling a sense of happiness, positive emotion actually increases your longevity in life. So that was about health. Anything else? Or what do you know about happiness, about well-being? Okay. So Authentic today is we're going to go a little bit talk about what the current understanding of well-being theory, and we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of well-being. This is a current research that has been supported in what really it is. So we're going to talk about positive emotions, positive relationship, meaning, engagement, and accomplishment. Talk about those a little bit. So, oops. Too quickly. That's not it. But before we begin, I got you away. This one, the first one is life satisfaction scale. It's open to public use, and this basically give a general measurement of your life satisfaction. So if you would complete a survey, and then we'll talk about what the score means. Go ahead and circle it up and add the score.
Is there any time frame, like in the past 6 months or in my whole life?
I think in general, if you look back maybe in the past month or the past, let's put it in the past month or the past. If you are done, you can now ask the score. The one that I gave you from over there is what does it mean? What each score represents. So if you're high on the scale, like between 30 to 35, you're pretty much very satisfied with your life right now. Nothing is going well, you can change a thing. If you're between 25 to 29, you're still very satisfied. There may be things that you might want to change, but not a big deal. 20 to 24 is on average. really anything that below 14 or like 14 and below, you have a lot of things going on. It's not really well, and that it really becomes a burden. So hopefully you all have that. Now another scale works on a similar basis is flourishing scale. You may do this or you don't have to, but this is again talks about flourishing. It was just a lot. Again, Dr. Ed Dinners are the authors of this scale. I get the reference onto it. You can Google it and you will still get this score. So high score meaning you're very encouraged, you like are doing well. You have a sense of happiness, meaning and engagement. The lower the scores, the less flourishing you have. Is there are the score ranged where you think they're supposed to fall, or you get higher, lower than expected? Or your score reflect on what you think your life is, or a little bit different in terms of life satisfaction?
I think mine are what I
Mm-hmm. Any questions or comments? This particular website has a bunch of questionnaires on happiness and well-being. It's free. What you have to do is you have to create a profile. And this one is from Universal Consultant here. You can go on looking at compassion scale, authentic happiness questionnaires, signature strength scale, the group scale, survey, optimism test. They all are available to you for free, but keep in mind that any question that you completed will be used in research that they are connected and use it here. So just type in authentic happiness and the person that you're able to that one. So that's our resources. If you would like to go on and complete some of the survey that you'll get, some of the survey that they have. I would recommend a signature strength test. It's a bunch of questions that talk about what are some of your strengths and what are some of the ways that you can use those strengths to enhance your overall level of happiness and well-being. Any question for me so far? If you do, feel free to ask. I talk a lot. If you don't have one question, I would totally love it. Any questions? We look at these. So, well-being theories. Well-being is a construct. So what I mean is, I think of an umbrella where you have this giant term that you don't really know what it is, but they have a bunch of stuff underneath it that makes up the umbrella. So you think about the body, you have the cloth that provides the shape, and then the metal structure, that give us an umbrella. Umbrella in itself is a construct, but the thing that makes up an umbrella makes it real. Just like well-being. Because well-being, when we measure well-being, we'll not measure what it is, we'll measure an element of well-being. So when I say happiness versus well-being, well-being is actually a more broader term. Happiness is what we can measure. Scientists, at least social scientists, try to measure it. And elements of well-being are, they must contribute to well-being. So minerals contribute to an umbrella. It is being pursued for its own sake, so you're not trying to pursue happiness for money. You're trying to pursue happiness because you want to be happy. It must be exclusively defined and independent from another element. So happiness is not the same as having a sense of achievement. Although happiness and achievement can bring you happiness, but they're two different concepts. And that's really what we're looking for when we talk about the constructs of well-being and what contributes to our overall well-being. So, in 2000, I believe in 2002, the Authentic Happiness book came out. And, well, everybody talks about, Authentic Happiness talks about happiness. Now, in 2010, this book came out, Flourish. It's a newer version of that book, and it's actually more comprehensive. And this one is what we're based upon is, well now, when positive psychologists talk about happiness or talk about well-being, it's actually a broader term now. When we measure it, for one, we measure life satisfaction. Now we actually measure positive emotions, engagement, meaning, positive relationship, and accomplishment. Remember the first thing that we talked about when they asked what makes you happy. A lot of you talked about relationship, having a relationship with someone. And so that's a bigger one. And goals. Now the goal is to increase the life satisfaction. But now our goals is different. Our goal is to increase flourishing by increasing all of the 5 elements of well-being. So what the theory is trying to say is that all of those factors will help us in a long term contribute to our well-being and happiness. So why do we study about well-being? There is a really wonderful research by Dr. Ed Dinger, and he measured a bunch of undergraduate students, and they asked, basically asked the students, what do you want out of life? What do you want out of life for your children? If you have your children, what do you want your children to be? Well, they have about 47 nations participant in this study for an undergraduate school. And what they found is that most students say they want their children to be happiness, and doesn't have a lot of care. So, yeah, it seems that this construct tend to be sort of a universal phenomenon where people generally want to be happy. I have a YouTube video, really love this one. And this professor actually discussed about happiness and well-being. I'm going to go towards the end because it actually was wonderful. But as a scientist or as a researcher, we try to study the average. We don't really study about what makes people exceptional. At least in psychology field, we don't really do it, especially with therapists. We're not talking about what makes people exceptional. We're talking about illnesses, psychological illnesses, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorders. But if we continue to study about illnesses, well, what we do is we'll just bring people to an average. We'll just get rid of illnesses. But that doesn't mean getting rid of illnesses, not having depression, not having anxiety, does not equal to you're happier. You're just not depressed. So his speech actually comprehends on what probably made up most comprehensive statement.
Your brain processes well. Original success success of getting into the school, 2 weeks later, the brains were focused not on the privilege of being there, nor on the philosophy or the physics. The brain was focused on competition, the workload, the hassles, the stresses, and complaints. When I first went in there, I walked into the freshman dining hall, which is where my friends from Waco, Texas, which is where I grew up. I know some of you have heard of it. When they come to visit me, they look around, they say, this freshman dining hall looks like something off Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, which it does. This is Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, and that's Harvard. When they see this, they say, Sean, why do you waste your time studying happiness at Harvard? Seriously, what does a Harvard student possibly have to be unhappy about? Embedded within that question is the key to understanding the science of happiness. Because what that question assumes is that our external world is predictive of our happiness levels. When in reality, if I know everything about your external world, I can only predict 10% of your long-term happiness. 90% of your long-term happiness is predicted not by the external world, but by the way your brain processes the world. And if we change it, if we change our formula for happiness and success, what we can do is change the way that we can then affect reality. What we found is that only 75% of job successes, only 25% of job successes are predicted by IQ. 75% of job successes are predicted by your optimism levels, your social support, and your ability to see stress as a challenge instead of a threat. I talked to a boarding school up in New England, probably the most prestigious boarding school, and they said, we already know that. So every year, instead of just teaching our students, we also have a wellness week. And we're so excited. Monday night, we have the world's leading expert coming in to speak about adolescent depression. Tuesday night is school violence and bullying. Wednesday night's eating disorders. Thursday night is illicit drug use. And Friday night, we're trying to decide between risky sex or happiness. I said that's most people's Friday nights. Which I'm glad you liked, but they did not like that at all. Silence on the phone. And into the silence, I said, I'd be happy to speak to your school, but just so you know, that's not a wellness week, that's a sickness week. What you've done is you've outlined all the negative things that can happen, but not talk about the positive. The absence of disease is not health. Here's how we get to health. We need to reverse the formula for happiness and success. In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this. If I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem is it's scientifically broken backwards for 2 reasons. First, every time your brain has a success, you just change the goalpost of what success looks like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got a good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, you change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. The real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise the brain's level of positivity in the present, then the brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain is positive, performs significantly better than it does negative neutral stress. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found is that every single business outcome improves. Your brain at positive is 31% more productive than your brain at negative neutral stress. You're 37% better at sales. Doctors are 19% faster, more accurate at coming up with the correct diagnosis with positive instead of negative neutral stress, which means we can reverse the formula. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, then our brains work even more successfully, as we're able to work harder, faster, and more intelligently. What we need to be able to do is reverse this formula so we can start to see what our brains are actually capable of. Because dopamine, which floods into your system when you're positive, has 2 functions. Not only does it make you happier, it turns on all the learning centers in your brain, allowing you to adapt to the world in a different way. We found that there are ways you can train your brain to be able to become more positive. In just a 2-minute span of time, done for 21 days in a row, we can actually rewire your brain, allowing your brain to actually work more optimistically and more successfully. We've done these things in research now in every single company that I work with, getting them to write down 3 new things that they're grateful for 21 days in a row, 3 new things each day. At the end of that, the brain starts to retain a pattern of scanning the world not for the negative, but for the positive first. Journaling about one positive experience you've had in the past 24 hours allows your brain to relive it. Exercise teaches your brain your behavior matters. We find that meditation allows your brain to get over the cultural ADHD that we've been creating by trying to do multiple tasks at once. It allows our brains to focus on the task at hand. And finally, random acts of kindness or conscious acts of kindness. We get people, when they open up their inbox, to write one positive email, praising or thanking somebody in their social support network. And by doing these activities, by training your brain, just like we train our bodies, What we found is we can reverse the formula for happiness and success, and in doing so, not only create ripples of positivity, but create a real revolution. Thank you very much.
So what do you think? Make sense? Kind of? Not really? Any comment on that? Alright, so we'll talk a little bit about myth of happiness. What makes you happy? More flexibility at work? Would that make you happy? New job? Extra bedroom in the house? Bigger house maybe? Would that make you happy? More money? More time? Looking younger? Lost weight? Looking more beautiful? If any of your answer were that, I can tell you it's not. It does. All of this will not make you, will not increase your happiness or well-being. It's a myth. So we'll talk about happiness myths. Well, happiness must be found. We talk about, it's hidden in a box somewhere. We're gonna have to find it. Well, that's not how happiness works. You have to start it from your own. Happiness lies within. Can be found in the outside of you, hidden someplace. If I do have that hidden box, I'll give to everyone. Since I know, right? You have to got to take a matter into your own hands. When you can train, just like when he talks about how you can train your brain to be happier. This is when you start to train your brain to be happier, take a matter into your own hands. Happiness lies in changing our circumstances. Well, if I move to California, my life will be so much happier. If I have $1 million in my bank account, my life will be happier. Well, that only accounts for 10% of the variance in happiness. Really, really small chance. Either you have it or you don't have it. If you're happy, then you're always going to be happy. Well, life doesn't work that way. It goes up and down, as we all know. And that's not always the case. And we can actually learn to overcome some of the set points that we have. Just like we can overcome anxiety and depression, we can train ourselves to be happier as well. So it's not that all or nothing, or that it has to be found. You just have to find motivation to be happier. Okay, so what are some of the factors associated with happiness? Strong positive relationship with others. Your pet, your dog, your significant other, your friends, your teacher. Extroverted. They actually found people who are extroverted, so they're a little bit more outgoing, a little bit more friendly. They have a little bit, are associated with their happiness level. Agreeableness, so people who are more agreeable, not stubborn. Less neurotic, maybe less anxiety, less depression, tend to be associated with happiness. Also, natural welfare accompanied with rising income, because we think that as a nation, I would not say as a nation, but the U.S. is one of the richest countries in the world. If you don't think it's like, what research has found is that current income levels is much higher than what you found 50 years ago. But life satisfaction of people in the U.S. does not raise. In fact, what raises the prevalence of depression, the prevalence of anxiety? Well, if welfare or income raises equivalent to happiness, why are we seeing the trend in which developed nations having so much money and then people are still not happy, people are still not satisfied? Why some of the countries who are poorer are still in a developing state or underdeveloping state, some of their citizens are really happy, like the one in China, the one in Bhutan. So what they really found is having money to satisfy your basic needs does actually correlate to your happiness and well-being. But if you make $50,000 a year and then you suddenly make $100,000 a year, that will not increase your well-being. It might increase for a little bit, but then you go back to what your original are, your baseline level of happiness. Also, if you're more satisfied with your finance, so if you're making $50,000 a year and then you're satisfied with your finance, it doesn't matter if you're gonna have $1 million in your bank account, you're still satisfied with your level right now. If you're not satisfied, even if you're not satisfied, you make $1 million a year, you're still not gonna be happy. Optimistic about the future, because optimism, having a positive outlook in terms of, well, what can I do in the future? The future are going to be okay, and I can do this and this, A, B, C, and D. Actually does correlate to your well-being and happiness a lot more than not, and then having a negative or pessimistic outlook on life. So, happiness time. Yay! This is what he was talking about. What scientists have found is about 50% of your happiness is contributed by your set point. And when we talk about set point, it's your gene. That actually kind of makes sense because we talk about anxiety, substance abuse, depressions are having a lot to do with your genes. Your genetics that predispose you to those diseases. So happiness, about 50%. He also talked about the circumstances. Like I said, it's about 10%. So moving to a new state, moving to a new country, your weather, having the sunny out, really doesn't cost you about 10% of the value. What you can do and what you can change is your intentional activities. Whether you're gonna find a silver lining in your circumstances, it's gonna have a positive refrain. That you are going to intentionally be kind to other people, helping other people and helping compassion and activities and satisfaction.
Feels weird.
And also what we can choose to do, what we can change to increase our overall level of happiness.
Well, yeah, I was planning to take next Friday off, but I've been coming up for a long time. I didn't think about that. I'm sure. Yeah.
10% for circumstances,
Yeah.
Yeah, when I write it, I was like, only 10%. Because the first thing was we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to change circumstances to make us feel happier, right? But no, it's actually like within us.
Well, I'm just curious. So, for example, like incident like getting married, would that be 10% circumstance or 40% intentional activities?
It would probably be under the 10%. What they actually found, and this is talking about marriage satisfaction a little bit, was happy couples when they first get married. Which I have. Okay, I'm gonna draw a tiny thing here, right? So this is where the couple baseline of happiness, right? Well, when they get married, their happiness level go up a little bit. When they just got married, but a few years later on, their happiness level dropped down to that baseline. So, yeah. Overall, in general, married couples tend to be happier than single counterpart, but usually happiness levels tend to drop to that baseline level. That make sense? Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. So positive emotion. What are positive emotions? What else?
Excitement.
Excitement, yay! What else? Hopefulness, optimistic, feeling happy, satisfied, encouraged. Any other emotion, positive emotion words that we can think of?
Safe, feeling safe.
Feeling safe and secure. Anything else? So, I like this one, make happiness a habit. So, okay, there is this Brown and Bill theories, which go back to the gentleman that I showed on YouTube. Okay, what this theory actually talks about is positive emotions. If you generally a happier person, you usually have a novel thoughts and activities, so it encourages you to be more creative, more playful, trying to build those resources that you have, so like maybe like trying to make your relationship better. When you have those, you have a novel thought, and it actually builds your resources. Because if you think about when you're happy, people want to be near you, you start making new friends, having a creative ideas, and those become the resources that you keep in your toolbox. And that enhances your health and survival. Because the more tools you have in your pocket, the better it is for you to handle your life stressors when it comes along the way. Then like for example, if you're anxious about getting a new job, maybe you have a friend who could support you through that process. Like, oh, I'm getting anxious about this, and you can talk it to. By having a friend, building that resources, building your relationship, help enhance your survival, which produce more experience of positive emotion when you talk. When you talk to your friend over, you become less anxious, you become supported and encouraged, and that go back to increase your positive emotion. So it's like an outward spiral. So if you're happy, you tend to do something that's a little bit happier, building your sense of fulfilling, your sense of meaning, having engaged friends, having a meaningful relationship, and all of those help you when you have a life stressor. When you have a life stressor, you become more resilient. Which go back to increase your positive emotion. Does that make sense? If you think about it, just like when you have a depressed client, if they're depressed, they tend to have negative thoughts, making them more depressed. Therefore, it's a downward spiral. Having positive emotion does the same thing. You're happy, you tend to do things that makes you even happier. In a sense, you feel happier in the long run. So it's all about the brother and the theory. So what this theory really talks about is positive emotion are like the negative emotions where, if you get frightened, you're either going to fight, you're going to run. Positive emotion usually generate enough specific action tendencies. So you're happy, you may go play, you may go walk in the park, you may go talk to your friends, go party out with your friends. It actually promote that free activity that you can do. So if you look at children when they play, they usually play when they're happy. And some of those behavior that you see children play, for example, if they was playing around, things like punching, whatever, that helps build their muscle tone, so that when they are in a dangerous situation, they know to fight, they know how to fight, even though that skill set is learned from play. Positive emotions also build to broaden and build various behaviors and thoughts and social resources. And that's what the example of the play is. So for example, if you see a play, they usually play in a little small groups, and then they'll having that social connections. But when through the play, those children actually build social skills, how to learn to communicate with their friends, how to negotiate with their friends about what they want and what the other person wants, and that actually builds their behaviors. That's what we're talking about. So when we talk about action tendencies, so we'll talk about play. Children tend to play, and they usually play when they're a little bit happier. Cognitive, they usually find increasing overall thinking of attention and flexibility. So when you're happy, you tend to have a better focus than if you're feeling sad or depressed. You usually have a bad focus, attention. Health, what some research has found is that having a positive emotion in anxiety situations. So what they did is they made the participants have them prepare a speech, public speech, that usually get people anxious. So, and then they also measure positive emotion and cardiovascular activities, like measure their heart rate and their pulse. What they found, participants who actually have positive emotion can bring their heart rate, their pulse to baseline faster than those who does not have. The faster than those who have less positive emotions, so they have more negative emotion, they become more anxious. Trait. So it actually does know which will help. Coping. Actually, when you feel happier, you're not going to jump into conclusions or ineffective coping skills. What they found was people who feel happier usually stop and think about the situation, reflect on the situation, and find an effective coping strategy to deal with stress. So they actually have a higher resources and be able to deal with their stress a bit better than jump into a coping skill that may not be effective. Recently, what they actually found again is having positive emotions is a battle against stress, depression, and anxiety. And they've done this wonderful study about asking undergraduate student in Michigan right after the September 11 happened. And what they found is that those students who find sort of a meaning outlook on the situation, those who have higher positive emotions tend to be more resilient to that stress, to that trauma, than those who than their counterpart who has less positive emotions. So, any questions so far? Okay. So positive relationship. Yay, we can talk about this. So when I ask what makes you happy, a lot of you talk about, having meaningful job, having friendship, having significant other, even a relationship with your pet. So it does actually build upon your levels of well-being. Okay, so what they found in a marital satisfaction, in a marital relationship is some of the demographic factors associated with marital satisfaction may be high education, high social economic status. The couple may have similarities in interest, intelligence, and personality, sexual compatibility. But they also find some belief system and interaction pattern of a happy couple. So they usually be very respectful of each other. They usually be very accepting of each other. There is a strong commitment in the relationship, spirituality, positive behaviors and interactions. Focusing on conflict and specific issues and rapidly repairing their relationship when the conflict arrives. And, positive behaviors and interactions. We'll talk about, how couples react and they're like, oh, honey, how's your day? And it's just fine, and that's stopped, and no conversation ever started when you ask your significant others. Now, there is what we call a constructive response, a constructive and positive response. So when the partner comes along and says, I got a promotion with my job, and they're so excited. Well, if the positive constructive response might looks like this. Really? Oh, I'm so glad that you have that you're getting this promotion. I know you're working very hard to get this promotion. Can you tell me more about it? How do you feel about this? So the partner who's receptive is looking the person into the eye, having a brighter facial expressions, and wanting to engage in that conversation, asking more, having their partner illuminate about their excitement, their happiness when they find out that when they get promoted with their job. Why? If you have a more passive response or aggressive response, you might say, oh, really? Now you're going to have to work long hours? Now are you going to be able to come home for dinner every night? What's going to be the downside? So that are the aggressive response that in fact might not be as constructive. Is that making sense? So those are like a positive behaviors and interaction pattern. So talk about again. So now we just talk about the romantic relationship, but we also found a positive relationship with friends. Positive peer attachment. So having a good peer support system is actually related to life satisfaction. And what we actually found was that if your friends can get you, can meet your psychological needs at that point in time, that influences your friendship quality and your happiness level. So, if you have good and supportive friends and you're anxious because you're getting this new promotion at your job, and you go to your friends and your friend calm you down, encourage you and say this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for you, you get that psychological needs. So that enhances your friendship quality and also relate to your happiness. Instead of going to your friends and they beat you down because you get a promotion and they start criticizing you about it. That will not help with your friendship qualities or your happiness. Talk about marital satisfaction. A global and overall romantic relationship quality does enhance the person's happiness and well-being. Emotional insecurity, and companionship are the two strongest features that enhance and predict happiness. So if both partners are pretty much emotional, stable, and secure in terms of their interaction with each other, they're not going to go out and be jealous of their partner, and be able to support and become and have that positive companionship with each other. What they found, these two factors predict happiness levels of the couple. I keep skipping this. So we only have a few minutes left, and I want to go through this, so I'm going to skip some. Okay, meaning. When we talk about meaning, what do you mean? What do you think it means? Having meaning.
I could go to work every day and give people medicine and change weight and all that stuff and not really care. Or I could do it with intention and with the purpose behind it, and because I want them to feel better and to feel more accomplished.
Yeah. Basically that's the example of meaning. So meaning is a sense of belonging to a certain something that is bigger than yourself. So when you give a medicine to your patient, you can just do it because it's your job, or you do it because this provides you with a sense of purpose. I'm actually helping healing my patient to make them feel better. And that job provides you with a sense of meaning. So it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to change the world like the Dalai Lama or the President Obama. This doesn't have to be it. It has to be intrinsic in general. So it actually is important to you, provide you with a sense of purpose, rather than I'm going to go out and be the world leader. So what they found, having a good belief system, benevolent beliefs have been shown to correlate with well-being. So, I'm going to do something good today. I'm going to actively seek out to do something good. Even just perception of having a meaningful work can enhance positive emotions and leadership skills. So your work might not be meaningful at all, but you perceive that what you do is meaningful. So even the janitor, who comes to clean the house or clean the school, if they perceive that their job is meaningful, they can have a happiness and well-being as well. It doesn't matter what you do, it's just the way you have to believe that what you do is meaningful. Meaning in life has been shown to predict psychological well-being, even in patients with cancer. So if they feel like their life has meaning, has a purpose, even if they're in a terminally ill patient, they still have a sense of happiness and well-being. And in fact, there was again a research on disabled individuals, and we know disabled individuals are not going to be happy. But what they found is disabled individuals are just as happy as their non-disabled individual counterparts. So, what's the next thing? I just want to do. So, yes, and in older adults, what they found, they have this program where they instill personal goals for older generation, older adults, and they found that and adults who enroll in the program show an increase in hope, goal realization, process, serenity, flexibility, and a positive attitude towards retirement. They also found that having their personal goals show a decrease in depression levels and psychological stress. So that helps. Okay, engagement. How many of you have an activity in which you kind of completely observe in what you do, and sometimes you don't always necessarily know that 2 hours has passed? Those days.
About sleeping?
No, not sleeping. Not sleeping. Sleeping doesn't help. Okay. I do. I usually like dancing, and so that's the activity I'll also talk about it. But so flow. A definition of flow is that it's a subjective state that people reported when they are fully engaged in activities that is challenging for them. It requires a set of skills and that are intrinsically motivating for an individual. So sleeping would not be one of them. So it is important, but maybe if you enjoy reading, you can read for an hour at Starbucks, right? And you don't know that 2 hours has passed because you actually enjoy reading. Or for me, dancing. It requires the skills. It really does require skills. And 2 hours has passed, and I'm like, oh, it's already been 2 hours. But it's actually motivating for me. It requires a set of skills. And I keep contributing to flow is having an intrinsic enjoyment in doing the task. So if you don't like doing it, you're not going to engage in flow. Challenging skills is balance. So the task may be very, very hard. So if you have to run, 8 mile marathons, it's going to be hard to run 8 months, right? But you have the skills, so you have the physical fitness to do so. So even though the task is challenging, but you have an adequate skill set to complete that task. It's an automatic set of an action, so you can run, you can start running, or I can just start dancing, and it's automatic to me. It's having a clear goal, specific clear goals. Have the feedback. You can concentrate and pay attention to the task. You have a sense of self-control, and you should be engaging in lots of self-consciousness. I remember one of my friends who loves to bicycle, and said, when I bicycle, it really doesn't matter. I am in myself. So that's lots of self-consciousness. Usually there's a time transformation, like I say, 2 hours last time, we have no, it's already been 2 hours, really? Just like this was almost an hour, and I'm like, oh God, I'm behind. I'm behind. So what they found in engagement, having a sense of engagement is usually enhance your positive effects, have positive emotions into enhance. There's also increased life satisfaction. Students also report higher self-esteem levels when they are fully engaged in their study and activities. There's a decreased level of anxiety level, and they usually find active coping skills that help them to deal with stress rather than being passive or not doing anything at all. When the passive coping skill may be avoiding the situation of having stress. The students who have a higher engagement tend to use a more active coping skill, like problem solving type of coping skills. So last is accomplishment. Basically your achievement level. So when we talk about achievements, we talk about skills multiplied by effort. So a skill may be a speed of what you do, a speed of what you know, going to automatic knowledge. So when you give your meds, you usually know a lot of medication, what this look like. It doesn't take you a lot of time to sort through that medication. Then, so you have a speed in what you do, but what we also have to talk about is slowness. So if you speed all the time, well, maybe you're careless, maybe you make a mistake. So that slowness coming where you voluntarily slow down, learning to organize, learning to plan, correct your mistakes, not just writing your papers and just submit it and not correcting your mistakes. And rate of learning is how fast you can learn. The faster you can learn, the more automatic knowledge you have, and the more time you have for slowness, so you can correct your mistakes, do it again, do it over. And the fourth is the amount of time you spend on the task. So the skill set and the effort equal to achievement. That's the formula there is. And grit versus self-disciplinary. Grit is an extreme form of self-discipline. So it's basically you're very persistent in what you do. You don't let it go that easily. You can't respond other activity that may competing against what you're doing. You're like, you know what, that can't wait. I'm gonna finish this first. So, all right. What they at the end is that having to accomplish their goals, people who can accomplish their goals have a higher orientation to their well-being, subjective well-being in general. Being able to accomplish their goals also have a higher positive affect. So think about this. This makes sense. If you, I did a little bit out there. When I know that you dance with, you get a sense of accomplishment, and I can do this now. So does that make sense? Any questions? Because I'm going to ask you to do this exercise. Is all of this making sense? Okay. Is there any activity that you all do in everyday life that sort of have this type of quality, this sense of accomplishment, engagement, having that positive emotion?
It isn't daily, but playing an instrument, piano or guitar.
A lot of people do that. Anyone else? I can tell you my dance about. I could break it down because like when I go dancing, right? I have to learn to dance. But we get a sense of a positive emotion when you dance because that's what you enjoy doing. But also, you could also increase a positive relationship when you can have a positive relationship with your instructor. And when you dance and you engage in that, you have a full sense of engagement. So like 2 hours, an hour and a half, really, it's done. But we have a skill set to do so, and also having a sense of accomplishment. You can do it well. So those activities that you do in daily life, even though it's small, minor, if you can think about it and break it down, there's probably a bunch of them that contribute to your overall sense of happiness and well-being. Sometimes it's hard to be able to sit down and analyze them a little bit and break them through. So, what went well? Exercise. This was the one that many Dr. Seligman came up with this, and he used this in his graduate class role as well. And what we found that people who complete this exercise regularly show an improvement in their overall summaries. We talk about positive, so we talk about well-being and the 5 pillars of well-being. So positive emotion experience does a lot in those daily activities. In fact, they actually talk about the ratios between positive emotion and negative emotion. And for us to experience a sense of well-being, there should be a ratio of 3 to 1. So 3 positive emotions to 1 negative emotion. So, positive relationships, your friends, your family, your dog, your pet, your spiritual well-being, having a meaning, a sense of meaning, maybe a sense of meaning in life, a sense of meaning in your work, having an engagement, be able to completely observe what you do into that flow state, and of course a sense of achievement. It may not be a huge achievement. It might be a small achievement, but be able to look in your mind, be able to say, oh, you know, I achieved it. So, and those are the 5 pillars of well-being. Do you have any questions for me?